Hey, welcome to our Society newsletter. I'm Jim Barry. I served at the Marine Barracks, Washington, and concurrently as a social aide in the administrations of President Reagan and President Bush. This is the first time we've tried the interviews in an audio format, so we hope you enjoy listening directly from our Society members. Now, I have to tell you, having interviewed a lot of us over the last several years, what I most like about the audio interviews is that you get to hear directly from our Society members in their own voice. Their backgrounds, why they joined the service, what they did or what they're doing in the service, what brought them to the White House, and what they've done since. What impressive ladies and gentlemen we have in our society. So take a listen to our members. We hope you enjoy their stories, and let us know if there are others within our society who you think we should be speaking with in the future. Enjoy. Gin and Jim Lariviere, welcome to our conversation for the Society newsletter. It's a great honor to have you on.
Thank you.
Good to be with you.
We were just catching up a minute ago, but I remember General Lariviere, who had just left, I think, as a captain from the Marine Barracks in 1986, and he had such a great reputation. Thanks to both of you for being in our interview. So I have to first ask, how did you first meet?
Do you want me to answer that?
You can answer that.
I was a Navy social aide, as you probably know, and I was a lieutenant at the time, and Jim was what do you call them when you do the
That color ceremony?
Up in the residence. And he...
Oh, yeah. Only Marines, right?
So only Marines.
Yes. He came walking down for I believe it was the Saudi event, which was...
No, it was Canadian.
Canadian. Oh, yeah. It was my first event. And he was on one side.
And roughly what year, Jen?
1985.
Must have been. Yeah, must have been. No. Yeah, it was 86.
It was 86. Okay. Not my forte. Anyway, 86. And I was on the opposite side of the North Portico with several of my colleagues. There were only 6 women in the social aid program at the time. So we stood out and I said, "Ooh, look at that. Cute." And he was the Marine social aid. So I'll say, well, it was one of those, I think I'll take one of those to go. Yeah.
That's great.
But I probably shouldn't say that because that's probably not politically correct.
Gotta love that evening dress. Gotta love that evening dress uniform.
He did wear that when we got married too, by the way.
Yeah, because the picture I sent you was from the Saudi color ceremony.
Right.
The state dinner.
So when you say colors ceremony, you were walking the colors down the...
Yes.
You go up and retrieve the colors in the yellow room, and then you walk down in front of the... Hopefully you don't trip down the trip on the marble staircase on the way down.
Tell us who the president was.
Reagan.
Great.
That's
terrific.
They were both Reagan aides. And
Excellent.
Only Reagan aides.
Yes.
All right. I have asked some of the others. Tell us what it was like to be at the Reagan White House.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it always was special. In fact, I was just thinking it was 40 years ago this month. I got my clearance 1 December or something like that, and immediately went right into White House Christmas season, which for the Reagans, they always did a spectacular job of decorating.
Yeah. The Reagans were genuinely very warm people, very appreciative of our participation in the White House events, and were very generous with both their time and their personalities. I mean, they were just genuinely warm people and very nice to be around. They never made you feel like you were an appendage to the furniture. You were part of the family and they treated you well.
Were there any moments while you were aides at the White House that stand out for either of you or for both of you?
I'll let you tell me.
For me, the good ones, the special ones were the color ceremonies. I got to do it twice, and it was just those stuck in my mind as special events. And then I guess the other event that was special, but I'm not sure what term to use. I'm still upset about. I was there for the Princess Di, Prince Charles event.
Oh.
And the famous photo of her dancing with John Travolta. And I'm not in the picture because I'm standing next to the photographer.
Oh, get out.
And so I've always been like, I could have been in the picture if I'd only managed to make my way around to the other side of the crowd.
Isn't that funny? Oh, wow. What was that like that night?
Everybody was oohing and eyeing. It was Princess Di. And on the one hand, we were all oohing and eyeing. On the other hand, because it was not a state dinner, they held it on a Sunday night. And while everybody else in town was excited about being invited to this event, we were all complaining because it's Sunday and we're going to work tomorrow. But it was cool. Oh,
That's great.
I missed that event because my Yankee White came through the following month. So the Canadian State Dinner was my first one. And not only did I miss Diana, I had met Charles years before at Sinclair Fleet, but I missed meeting Tom Selleck, who I always wanted to meet.
Right.
No, mine was a little bit more weird. As I said, there was only 6 women, so we stood out. There were only 2 female Navy officers at the time. There was one state dinner, and the state dinner really wasn't a significant part, but one of the senior guests, who was a friend of Ronald Jr., was there. I think that we weren't allowed to touch the guests unless they were falling down. We had to guide them through body language, and the president and the first lady were about to go up from the reception room into the residence, and we're standing. My instruction was, get the specific guest. I will not name him, but get the specific guest and bring him over so the Reagans could say goodnight, because he was a friend of Ron Jr. So I went to the far side of the reception room and I signaled to him, would you please follow me? The president would like to speak with you. So he started to follow me, and he was about on a clock. He was about at my 7 o'clock. When I got to the president and the first lady, I said, Mr. President, Mrs. Reagan, I'd like to introduce turned. And the guy had taken a hard left 20 feet away. So basically, I introduced the leader of the free world to air. Reagan, like I said, was a very warm person. And he smiled at me and he said, well, what are you going to do? And of course, Mrs. Reagan was giggling. I said, one moment, sir, I'll be right back. So I did quick about face, walked over, tapped the guy on the elbow and said, follow me now. I kept him at 11 o'clock, introduced him, walked away, figured I was now going to be fired from the social aid program. 2 days later, I worked a singular event with Reagan in the green room. It was a small event. And of course, again, 6 women, he knows who I am. I walked in and I said, Mr. President, good to see you. He said, hello, Lieutenant. And then he looks at me, he leans over, because he was a tall man. I'm only 5'4". And he leans over and he says, are you going to lose one today? And I just looked at him and I went, no, sir, I don't think so. And he goes, okay. And fortunately, there was no one else in the room. So Reagan and I had about a 2.5-minute conversation with no one else in the room. We just chatted.
Oh, get out.
But yeah, I had the pleasure of talking to him about colleges, because he went to a small college, as did I. So, but it was just funny that he was goofing on me. So I just said, no, sir, not today. And he just giggled and we took a picture. He said, take an extra picture with this young lady.
Is that the one? That's the one I sent you.
That picture was taken as the result. But he was a very genuine person, and I was mortified by losing the guest.
That is funny.
He thought it was very amusing and teased me about it. And that actually gave me the confidence. In every other job interview I've ever had, when they say, how do you react in positions this difficult? I said, that's the story I told them. And people go, yeah, I guess you can handle difficult situations. I go, after that, what's going to be worse?
Isn't that great? And you said Mrs. Reagan laughed.
Mrs. Reagan, who is obviously very diminutive, she and I used to make eye contact all the time at events. And I liked her husband very much, and I think that was obvious. And she obviously adored him. So she and I had a very nice working relationship. And she was to me, she was always lovely. I never had an issue with her. So I'd like somebody else, but you won't. Go ahead.
I, on the other hand.
So there's another story. It
Oh
sounds
yeah. I, on the other hand. Oh, I got signed to intro aid for one of her events, one of her small events. And I'd never done it before. So I asked the advice of one of my Marine Corps colleagues, what do you do? And I don't know if he was serious or whether he was.
Hopefully it wasn't Mike Hansen who you asked.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but I was told first, speak up, because she sometimes doesn't hear. Be firm. Make sure she stands where she's supposed to stand, and guide the whole thing, and just make sure. So I did all very direct, and so I did all those things. And after the event was over, the mill aide came over and said, Mrs. Reagan is very upset with you.
You're kidding me.
She thought you treated her disrespectfully, and didn't appreciate. I was never assigned again to be intro aide.
Oh, that is funny. So what happened?
I never heard anything more about it, but I did notice that I never again, for any event ever, was in
Even with the president.
that never had to do intro aid ever again. It was my first.
Maybe that's why I got it so many times.
Yeah, you were picking up on my. You're picking up.
So you were a hottie who was no longer intro, according to your wife. You were no longer an intro aide as a hottie. That is funny.
I stand there, look good, don't say anything.
Come on, Marines are good at that. Stand there, look good, don't speak. Yeah.
Isn't that what they taught us at 8th and I? Stand there, look good, don't say anything.
That is great. That's a great story.
We get that a lot when we go places. People don't talk to him, they talk to me.
Yeah,
and I don't really want to talk to people. I'm an intelligence officer by background, so I tend to not want to talk to people. And he says I had a lady at the hospital we were at for a doctor's appointment yesterday start talking to me on the elevator and told me half her life story in an elevator ride. He says, "How do you do that?" I go, "I have no idea."
That is funny. Where are you both living right now?
Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston.
Oh, yes. Very nice.
Yeah.
Charming. Oh, terrific. So tell me, what did you both do in the service? And Jen, do you want to start?
I was an intel officer. I did everything from human to submarine surface analytics and bugs, drugs, and thugs in the 80s. So that's my area tends to be Central South America and Europe. I'm not a PAC person. And again, I'm of that vintage where we were doing counter drugs, that kind of stuff. So, and in the reserve.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that was a Grenada. I worked Grenada. I worked Panama and a few other stuff.
She invades small countries.
Right.
Mostly in South America, Central and South America.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed the work. I miss the work. I don't miss the political side of it so much, but I enjoyed the work quite a bit.
That's great. That's great. How many years were you in?
27 and a half. I always say close to 30. I did 27 years and 8 months if you include my reserve time.
And sir, you?
So I had kind of a weird career. I started out in the artillery. Then
I didn't know that. Who were you with?
I originally signed a Bravo 110.
Oh, very good. I was with 311.
Okay. And then I hated it. I didn't want to be an artillery officer in the first place. Too much math that matters. So I ended up going out taking the recon indoc and ended up at 2nd Recon Battalion. And then I got my MOS changed through my former battery commander who became the artillery monitor. When I went back to the fleet after AWS, infantry company commander, and then went in the reserves, was it 2nd Med staff, SEAL at 3rd Force Recon, active duty after 9/11, was the assistant OPSO, and then the OPSO for the anti-terrorism brigade back when we had anti-terrorism brigade, 4th Med. Then got recalled again as an advisor in Afghanistan with for the G3, the Afghan National Army, and then assistant division commander and division commander for the 4th Mardiv. So, my very last tour, it's the longest title in the world, which means I was not important at all. I was the deputy director for political military affairs for Africa in the J5 strategy and plans on the joint staff. So I did 2 years in the Pentagon doing work in Africa, worked the Ebola crisis and a couple of coups and all the stuff you get work in Africa.
And how many years in were you, sir?
So 36, 19 of it active duty.
Very good. Tell me one event in your military career stands out that you'd like to share with the guests.
For me, I'm obsessed with it almost. Being a recon platoon commander in Beirut, 82, 83, that was a career highlight. If it had ended all right there, it still would have been a career highlight. That was made a big impression on a young lieutenant that's lasted my entire life.
And Jim, tell us something from that time period that was so meaningful to you.
The opportunity to have a recon platoon in an actual contingency operation was just, at that time, Vietnam was over, Desert Storm hadn't hit yet, and just having that opportunity just meant a lot to me.
Wow. Very good, Jim. Jen, what about you?
Mine's actually not related to my primary MOS, to use your term. We call them designators. I had a tour at the what used to be called Naval Military Personnel Command, and I worked in an area that was family advocacy and family support services. I was a single lieutenant at the time. But Public Law 99-147 came out, which was ancillary medical services for children of active duty for worldwide deployability. So bottom line is I'm the originator of the United States Navy's Exceptional Family Member Program. And we got that. Not only did we get it researched, we also got it, the law and the OPNAV instruction on the street in under 6 months. And I got in trouble for it because I worked for a one-star at the time. I won't say his name. He's not on my fun list. But we needed to get the OPNAV out. And I got the 1-star, the 2-star, the 3-star, and the 4-star all in the room, briefed them all. One time the 4-star went thumbs up. And we got that OPNAV instruction out in under 6 months because I wanted to go back to the fleet. And it wouldn't let me leave until I got it out. And then my 1-star boss chewed me out for letting him be the junior guy in the room. Oops. He's a little sensitive that way. But now the EFM program is, I know it's evolved since then, but that's my proudest single achievement because it's helped a lot of people.
Isn't that something? Let's say there's somebody listening today and they were thinking of joining the service. What would you tell them?
Do it. Do it.
Well, we're all living vicariously through our 4 children who are all commissioned officers.
Get out.
Yeah, so
2 Navy, 1 Coast Guard, 1 Army.
1 Army. So we're still living the dream through the kids. So yeah, it's absolutely, we encourage it and absolutely think it's the best adventure you can do when you're young.
It's a lot.
Isn't that something?
You get responsibility, you get challenges, and if you were on active duty as well, you get to do things that your peers don't get to do in their early 20s. You get responsibilities, you get the chance to see the world, and most importantly, you get challenged with something new every couple of years. I'm hyperactive New Yorker, and after about 3 years, I've learned it now on board. I want to do something else. So I think that opportunity doesn't exist in any other field. And a couple of our nieces have also been pulled in as a result of the enthusiasm. And I think that my son-in-law is a helicopter pilot. I mean, it's just something that I think that not enough people are willing to do.
That's terrific.
Well, it is somewhat of the family business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. Oh, congratulations. That's exciting.
We did have one. We did have one. We always, she gets mad when I tell her this. We had one quote unquote quitter. My younger daughter and her husband went into the reserves, and he's at Harvard Business School, and she's going to Boston University Law School. So,
that's funny.
You're now reservists.
So they're reservists.
Isn't that great?
But
all right. So let's say you're going to give a class on leadership, and let's say Harvard Business School. Your son-in-law asked you to come visit. What would be the first minute or two of your talk? Either one of you or both of you.
Well, I think for me, I usually tell people, first off, you have to set the example. You can't be seen telling people to do one thing and doing another, or asking people to do things that you either aren't willing to do or can't do yourself. And the second thing I harp on, just because I've seen it so many times, everything you do has to be legally, ethically, and morally correct. And if it's not, that will get you fired quicker than making a mistake tactically or making some other operational mistake. And I've just seen it so many times where it's not the tactical proficiency, it's your ethic and moral shortcomings that got you in trouble. So I think that would be that's great. That would be my short version.
That's great, Jen.
Mine is a continuation, and we've had these conversations a lot with our kids, which is why I think for the most part they're pretty good officers because they've seen it. One is to treat people fairly, but to understand what their capabilities are, to be willing to take someone says, and I've had this happen. I had one guy in the reserves who everybody said, he's a dirtbag. He'll never get anywhere. And the guy was sharp, but no one had ever actually sat down with him and said, tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? And the next cycle, he was the number 1 lieutenant in the entire group that was being evaluated. He just needed to be properly motivated. The other thing that, and this is not original to me, but officers eat last. We do not stand up at the front of the line. We take care of our people paramountly, not to the extent that the mission doesn't get accomplished. I mean, you work hard, but to Jim's point, you don't ask them to do something you're not willing to do, but you also don't stand up at the front of the line. It's like, you guys go, officers eat last.
So much different than what our civilian counterparts hear and practice. Yeah, that's terrific. Terrific advice. Thank you. Tell us about a professional inspiration. Tell us about past or present, somebody who's most inspired you, professionally or personally.
So on the personal level, this is personal for me, is I was always inspired when I was a kid. I read a bunch about Teddy Roosevelt. And one of the reasons I was attracted to that is I remember there was a thing called the Discovery Book series, and they did these kind of short,
I remember. Yeah.
fifth and sixth graders, right? So there's a book, and it talked about how he had asthma and how he overcame his asthma. So I had childhood asthma. I got in the Marine Corps on an asthma waiver, and as a kid, I was always just inspired by that as how you just determined to overcome it, get by it, and drive on, which is something that, helped me try to do the same thing, although never.
And you did.
Never succeeded at his levels. But no, I know, but so on that level. And then I think professionally, I probably as a Marine, I should be chastised for this. George C. Marshall, just fascinated with his career, his approach to leadership, his ability to organize things for the victory in World War II and all that. Probably makes him in my mind, probably America's finest soldier. And I love the fact he's a VMI grad, not a West Pointer. So makes it doubly...
Spoken like a true Citadel grad.
Spoken like a true Citadel grad.
Oh, you're a Citadel grad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
As are three of the kids.
Yeah, our two daughters and our youngest.
Oh, isn't that something?
Yeah, so I find him quite inspiring.
That's great.
Personally, actually, my boss was a guy named Thomas Aloysius Brooks, who to this day I couldn't spell Aloysius if my life depended on it. He was one of my first bosses, but he retired as director of naval intelligence as a 2-star. I worked for him when he was a captain at Sinkland Fleet. He had a sense of humor. He was from New Jersey, or he is from New Jersey. He's still living, and I'm from New York, so I could talk fast and it didn't faze him at all.
Where in New York, Jen?
Long Island, right? I call myself a Southern girl. I'm from the South Shore. Yeah, that's a very bad joke down here. But anyway, he was a good boss. I mean, he used to push me a lot because I was an ensign and he was a captain and we were at major headquarters. And he didn't get upset with me when I ran into the command center and literally bounced off the 4-star Harry train. I mean, like bounced off of him and landed on my butt. He just laughed at me a lot and told me to know my audience when I was briefing, because occasionally I'd make a New York joke and he'd go, know your audience. But he taught me how to be a good officer by observing and understanding the people that you work for. And so on a more professional level, honestly, Ronald Reagan. I loved watching Ronald Reagan lead.
You could tell in your voice the way you describe him.
Well, more than anything else, I think Ronald Reagan realized that he didn't have to be the smartest guy in the room. And I never want to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm usually not. I want to be close enough to the smartest to understand and to ask questions. But I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room because I'm not learning anything. And what Ronald Reagan taught me in watching him is that he knew how to identify the smartest guys in whatever area he needed, like the Secretary of State or Cap Weinberger, who, by the way, wore the weirdest dress shoes I've ever seen. They had little bows on them. But he knew how to identify smart people. And he knew how, more importantly, how to motivate them to be their best. Very much like Lincoln and his team of rivals. Mm-hmm. He was a brilliant leader. He was a brilliant motivator, but he was not a most brilliant man. I think he made some mistakes, but he had a core. His core values were very clear. And I think he imparted that to the people who worked for him. Not always perfectly, but always consistently.
To his country.
Most definitely. So I think that that's one of the reasons I admire. And plus, I loved working for the man because he always made me laugh. I mean, he'd make a joke to the side and you'd sit there and go, ooh.
Isn't that funny?
He was a genuinely fun person to work for. He was political, he was smart, but he knew how to get people motivated. So that's
terrific, Jim.
Answer, but
terrific. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. Given that your 4 kids are military officers, if they were on the call right now and they said, "Oh, this is what my mom and dad were like as parents," what would they say about him? what would be one or two words they'd say about you, Jim?
About Jim or Jen?
Yeah, Jim. General.
There is no question they will ask me that I will not give them an incredibly long and detailed and often very boring answer.
Dinner times lasted a long time.
They, in order for me not to ask them about their day and what they were doing, they would ask me some political or military question, and knowing that I would launch off into a long and detailed
That's
answer
great.
and the context and the historical precedents. And I'd clean up the whole kitchen by the time he was done.
Okay.
That is funny.
In
Jen?
our house, it was always, people would see him and they'd say, "Oh, your father's a general or a colonel, whatever." And the kids would say, "Don't be afraid of the general. Be afraid of the commander. She's a lot scarier."
That
And-
is
She's a hammer. I'm the nice guy.
Yeah, I have 7 siblings, so I grew up in a large family. So we had rules. We had assigned seats at the table, and to this day, my children will tell if one of their friends visited, they would sit in the seat of whomever was listed. They had assigned seats in the car. They had assigned colors growing up. So their shoes came into a box. We had structure just because. Not perfect structure, but we had structure because I didn't want to deal with kids fighting in the car about who's sitting next to the window. So we had 4 seats. That's your seat. Sit in it. Structure.
They also call, though, and we've been enjoying this with our youngest son here recently. He just took over a CB battalion down in Gulfport, Mississippi.
A company.
Took over a CB company. They were always amazed that we never got too flustered when they did something stupid. And then now my son calls and says,
"I get it.
I get it. The kid got drunk and stole the Hummer out of the motor pool and drove it to the PX to get something to eat. The guy that just didn't show up for duty. I'm like, yeah, now you know."
Isn't that great?
Now you know why we never got too excited. We'd seen it all before.
I think military, that's the other thing about being a military officer, because Jim had his group that he took to Lebanon, and I was an SSO, so I ran for an SCI building, I ran the 24/7 watch as a lieutenant. And I had 80 guys working for me. I was 24 and I had 18-year-olds working for me. So you learn real quick about, especially intelligence specialists who tend to be a little more intellectually smart, which means when they do something stupid, it's bigger stupid than Marine stupid. You get a phone call, and I spent a lot of time doing EMI with my guy who said he had 1 beer that big.
Isn't that great?
I think it was good preparation for being a parent, especially of teenagers.
That's terrific. Great responses. Thank you. All right. Last question, unless you have the other questions you want me to ask. What's a book or poem or work of art that's most inspired you?
So for me, what I remember, again, going back to when I was growing up, when I was probably 7th grade, my dad gave me the first book in the Hornblower series, C.S. Forester's Hornblower.
Oh, sure.
And I fell in love with the whole nautical adventure, 18th century Napoleonic Royal Navy. I've got the whole series here in hardback, and then I moved on to the Master and Commander series when Patrick O'Brien does. And so not necessarily, I later found out through Navy ROTC and some my subsequent float experiences that I should not stand watch on an onboard ship. I find it excruciatingly boring. The adventure of that, of all that, always inspired me to go.
Oh, that's terrific.
Want to go to sea, go to do that stuff. And so the Marine Corps gave me just enough sea time to enjoy it, and not so much that I learned to hate it.
That's terrific. What about you, Jen?
I don't have a singular book or a singular poem. I just like to read. I mean, I think it's more.
You like murder mysteries.
Oh, I like murder mysteries. I'm trying to write them. I'm trying to see if I can get them published. But I like things that involve some analytical thought, that involves some. So I tend to read authors like Agatha Christie or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, with his Sherlock Holmes being the first real detective. My dad used to read Edgar Allan Poe. But I like to look in the inner workings of the human mind and behavior. So, I mean, that's why I was an intel officer. I like to take things apart and put them together because I have an engineering background as well. But I think for me, it's just reading in general. I mean, our kids will kid you. If you walk into our house, there is not a room in our house that doesn't have books in it. I mean, always did. Books, magazines, reading material. it's just there. So the idea was to have them exposed to it, their friends exposed to it. They call my nephew and niece, who I'm very close to, used to call our house the museum. Because we
Great.
walk around, we have a scale model of the USS Constitution in the family room. It was my wedding gift to Jim. By the way, it was assembled by a Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant who was a friend of mine.
I'm going to ask you one more. Do you mind?
Sure.
There's a podcast in New York, out of New York, an investor technology guy who will often ask this question, which I really like. What advice would you give to your 26-year-old self?
Take notes. Seriously, take notes. And, well, intel officers, we don't, because a lot of what we do is classified, so we generally don't take notes, but take personal observations, I think, would be the thing. And also, I can't speak for Jim, but for me, I think I was so worried about trying to do the job that I didn't step back and really take in the context of where I was, either at the White House or in other parts of the world. Just stop for a second and go, the smell of the roses. Wow. What are we doing? I mean, we went to Australia in March and we did the same thing, and that actually observed. But I mean, back then, I think we were just too busy trying to get the job done to sit there and really soak in the context and the importance of it.
That's terrific. Jim?
I think, to be honest, I tell myself, have more confidence in yourself. You're better than
You realize.
You realize. And I think that would be the advice that I would give myself back then. But yeah, to her point though about the sit back and smell the roses, talk about you remember checking in the Marine Barracks, Washington, and how different it was from the fleet. I came from living at the BLT headquarters that they had blown up.
Yes.
To 8th and I, in the same year, started 1983, living in a bombed out building, and finished it at the White House doing Christmas events. And it was just the whiplash of going from living in the field to
right
at the White House was quite and I look back on it now and realize I probably didn't appreciate it like I should have.
Can I add one more thing? And that's something
great.
Jim and I have talked about a lot with our children and with our friends as well, is that I think you have to take into account that the most important thing that you have along with doing the mission is developing a network of people, because you can't do it all yourself. And we're trying to impart that in our kids. It's not about relationships; it's all about relationships.
Which I did not learn until I went to Capstone. Well, I should have, but I learned that when I was a lieutenant, not a 1-star. But
and when you're doing that, the way you do it is by doing things for people without strings. Somebody needs help, you help them, and then when you need help, they'll be there, not because they have to be, but because they want to be. So trying to be cognizant of the fact that the way you get loyalty and those emotional chips is by doing the work and helping people.
That's terrific. Jim and Jen, this has been a great conversation, and thanks for being on our society, I'll call it audio newsletter.
Okay.
Tell Ken we said hi.
Yeah,
You just did it.
Yeah.